A Maximum PC editor, Jimmy Thing here to review the Steam controller. Word on the street is that the Steam machines were delayed because the controllers weren't ready. Well, the controller is here, and as odd as it sounds, we think Valve actually took the controller out of the steamer a little too early. What makes the controller truly unique is its two touchpads, which makes the controller look sort of like an owl. The rest of the plasticky controller has your traditional ABXY face buttons and joystick. Some people are bothered by the lower placement of these inputs, but it didn't bother us too much. What did bother me initially were the two touchpads, which have a super steep learning curve. I've been looking forward to getting my hands on this controller for well over a year, and shortly after I unboxed it, I gotta say, I hated it. It kind of felt like I was using a joystick and a trackball all at the same time. If you're willing to put the time into it, however, you'll slowly get used to it. For us, we reached a tipping point after several hours where we simply got it. If you ever get to try the controller out in a GameStop or something, trust us when we say that this is probably the worst place to try it. The rest of your controller has your traditional 4 shoulder buttons. One nice thing about the L2 and R2 buttons is that they are dual trigger designs. This means you could say press halfway down to look down your sights, and then press all the way down to fire your gun. Another nice addition on the back of the controller are its left and right paddles, which could allow you to shift gears in a racing game. Other buttons on the front of the controller include the Start, Select, and Big Picture Mode button. The Big Picture Mode button is the gateway to controller customization. This button is going to be integral to the controller since the controller was designed to be backwards compatible with every single game on Steam. This means Valve is heavily relying on the community, i.e. people like you, to create presets for existing games. The idea here is that the highest rated community preset will become the default control scheme. While that sounds good in theory, right now with the controller being in a limited number of hands, most of the community-made presets are garbage. We've come across presets that didn't have any movement controls mapped, for instance. Also, it feels a bit like the Wild West out there right now considering the touchpads can act wildly different from preset to preset. Not only do you have to contend with a wide array of sensitivity settings, but sometimes the touchpad emulates a joystick, trackpad, mouse, or trackball. It's like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. Luckily, there are generic presets to choose from that emulate either an Xbox controller or a keyboard and mouse setup. But sometimes these presets allow you to navigate menus, and you have to switch back and forth between the two just to get a game working. This feels really janky. In addition to that, you'll often get an Xbox or keyboard prompt in-game, but these buttons will mean little on your Steam controller. Worst is when a preset hasn't mapped out key buttons. Playing TF2, for instance, a Valve's own game, there weren't any buttons to switch between characters or classes. That's kind of important. Thankfully, you can customize just about every aspect of the controller, and I suspect modders will get a kick out of it. But I also think more casual gamers will be intimidated by the dizzying array of options. But once you get the controller working, it really flies. Some people think that Valve is trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist, but I don't agree. You can't use an Xbox controller to play strategy games, and trying to use an Xbox controller against a keyboard and mouse user is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. While the Steam controller isn't as great as a keyboard and mouse, it at least bridges the gap. We're confident that someone who's good with a Steam controller will be able to smoke someone who's good with an Xbox controller, as it simply offers a much greater degree of aiming granularity. But will the gaming community widely adopt the Steam controller? Only time will tell. It could end up being the Dvorak of controllers, in that it's technically superior, but too awkward for most people to get used to. Regardless, we imagine the Steam controller has the potential to age like a fine wine, but unless you're willing to tweak some mediocre presets, we suggest you hold off until there are more user presets and for the bugs to be steamed out. For more info on the Steam controller, visit MaximumPC.com.